Today is Saturday, December 4th, 2021. Welcome to the Survivor Fans Podcast. I'm Joanne.
And I'm Stacy.
And this is the listener feedback show for Survivor 41, Week 11.
It's that 1-2 punch. Pow, pow. We got a recap on Wednesday and listener feedback on Saturday.
Okay.
We've been having some really great listener feedback shows, and I'm ready to contribute another one to that hit list.
Okay. Never know quite where you're going with that, but alrighty.
Keeping you on your toes.
I'm flexible.
Yes. Anything we need to cover before we dive in?
I don't think so.
Let's get to it. First up, a call from Pete.
Hey, Joanne and Stacy. This is Pete from Boston calling here. Wow. Now I'm going to say this again. Aside from the twists here and there, this season is really living up to its hype now from a strategy point of view. Tonight, at least the twists came about. So with that being said, I'm going to let out a great big woo! Now sing with me for Louisiana. Na 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 na. Hey hey hey. Goodbye. Oh, it was great to see her leave as well. I'll admit, not as exciting as when we saw Shan leaving last week, but this episode is right up there as well. But man, I'd be remiss here. How about my man Danny stepping up his game and improving his resume? That story about his dad there is just awesome. I love the flashback, and I really got emotional seeing that. It really did. It touched me a lot, and I was so glad that he won that challenge. He deserved to win that. I know his dad would be very proud of him there. And right now, I don't know, he's right up there for someone that could win now, too. We'll see. I'm worried about my man Deshaun running his mouth, not owning his mistakes. I mean, it got a little better when it was at Tribal, when he was talking with Ricard, and then hearing his story there, with him, Liliana, Danny, that was awesome there. You know, that warmed my heart a lot with all that's been going on. But anyway, guys, the thing I want to know is who's going to win now? Danny built up his resume. Deshaun, I think it's up and down there. But that move there with the twist, well, he had no choice there, and he survived by picking the fire one. He's in the middle, I'd say. Xander, I think, made a major mistake not getting rid of Ricard. I still think Ricard is the player to beat there, to me. Heather is Purple Heather. She's getting 0 votes. She'll make it to the end as a GOAT. I'll admit that. And then Erica, guys, I don't know. Erica, remember now, she's the only one. She might be the wild card that could win. They're all saying it, so we'll see. And I honestly don't know if Xander could win it either. I think it's Ricard, Erica, and maybe Danny right now. We'll see. And remember, guys, Heather and Erica are the only girls left. And keep in mind, the last woman to win it was Officer Sarah in season 34. So we'll see, guys. Looks like it's going to be a big finish. Can't wait to see how it pans out. Take care. Woo.
Woo. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, I don't know, because there's 5 people on the jury right now, and 3 of them are old Yase.
Mm-hmm.
And Xander might get their vote for no other reason. They're still in Liana's video. The 3 of them were together, and Tiffany was saying, we're still Yase, and we still have a say in this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought...
Some other Ponderosa video there at the end.
Yeah, the Ponderosa video. And I thought, well, yeah, they could certainly stay Yase strong. And
yeah, Liana said that they still had lots of steam they needed to let off. So, and she said that they interrogated her at great length. Everyone there that was already
Were
there.
you
All 4 of
surprised
them.
that Shan thought it was Liana that turned on her?
I was. That
was
just
too.
completely caught me from left field that Shan thought Liana was part of the group that took her down.
No wonder she told Ricard that he had her vote.
She's just feeling betrayed by everyone, huh?
I guess, but I thought it was obvious that it would be him, but I guess not. They all thought it, she said. She said, oh, we all thought it was you that turned.
I
She's like,
expected
"No."
Shan and Liana to be real buddy-buddy and have some heart-to-hearts in their Ponderosa video or
And
sort of
they-
recapture that moment, but it wasn't there.
That didn't happen.
She said she was getting some, I forget exactly how she put it, but like she was being interrogated by Shan. It wasn't in a positive engagement. At least she was feeling like it.
Well,
From what they showed us. I don't know.
Even before she got to Ponderosa, she was very excited to see Evie and Tiffany again.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't say Shan. Well, she tacked Nasir and Shan on too,
Mm-hmm.
of course, but you know, she was really talking more about her Yase people.
I find it hard to believe the first thing you said, that the Yase ladies would end up throwing a vote Xander's way. I don't think they respect him at all in the context of the game, that his moves were their moves just in action. And he's not making moves right now. So
It depends on how they feel about who else is there.
sure, yeah.
But I'm just saying, there are 3 of
Just
his
saying.
previous tribe members in the jury right now.
Yes, this is true.
So-
Fact. You've got it. The one that I'm interested in maybe having a surprise turn is Erica. Like if she flips and it somehow manages to get Ricard out this turn, whereas she just didn't feel comfortable. Maybe Xander did threaten publicly again with that extra vote
I
that he
totally
burned.
believe she could go that way.
Yeah, and
'Cause
then
she's
that
already was debating it last week.
would give her a little more credibility, a little more in the way of a resume.
She knows he's a danger. She's already
Shan's
said
gone.
that. But,
Ricard's gone. I got to be parts of this. So.
you know, Xander's clinging on to him buddy, you know.
Well, his shield, yes.
Well, yeah, that's
Yep.
what he's got. So I don't blame
It's not
him
the most
for that.
strategic move, but it is a defensive move that works.
I was hoping.
And Xander, Ricard's looking at Xander the same way.
Well, here's what
So it's
I am
mutually
afraid will happen.
Beneficial.
Is because I'd like to see Luvu pull back together and get Ricard out this week. But if Ricard wins immunity, Xander has immunity, somebody else is going home.
Yes, very much so.
And that's my dilemma for this week.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, no, I could easily see that happening.
See what you did with your question, Pete? You got us off pontificating about how this is going to
Completely
go.
off. Yeah, let's go back to the
Yes.
other people.
Let's bring it back around. Next up, we got a call from Christiana.
Hi, Joanne and Stacy. This is Christiana from Massachusetts calling in with my feedback for the week. I don't have a whole lot to say about this episode. I think that the conversations during Tribal Council were very powerful, and I think Deshawn and especially Liana did a great job articulating their experiences of being Black in this country, being Black on Survivor, and I think it was a great teachable moment, and even more than that, just allowing them to really be honest and truthful about their lives and experiences on the show, I think is really important. In regards to the actual gameplay, I totally thought Deshawn was dead in the water, so just by literal pure chance, he was saved. Liana's days were numbered anyway, but now moving forward, I really do not know what's going to happen. I feel like Ricard could go on a run. The other people are they have limited opportunities now to get him out. Would love to see Xander do well, but I don't know if he can get all the way there. So we'll just have to see. I think this week, I really don't know. Maybe Erica, I had her going this week. I feel like every week she's kind of on the bubble. Maybe Deshawn or Danny, if they can all rally and get Ricard. I really don't know. I am hoping that some other feedback gives me some strategic insight because I'm a little lost at this point. Anyway, I hope everyone has a good week. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, Christiana. Hopefully we'll get some strategic insight along the way here. Next up, we got a call from Michelle.
Hi, this is Michelle from Minnesota calling in to give my feedback for this week's episode, and I loved it. It was loaded with drama and tension. You weren't sure what was going to happen next, and the whole thing with the do or die challenge, even though it was a new twist, I liked it. Poor Deshaun, he was out within 3 seconds, and the ones that were hanging on really did a good job. I was so shocked when both Ricard and Xander went out, boom, boom, right next to each other. I really thought Xander had it, and he was going to win the game. I never saw Danny winning. He doesn't win anything. Now, whether he's holding back or not, like some people think, I don't know. I think he's getting just so weak because all that muscle mass takes a lot of protein to feed, and if he's not getting protein, his muscles are basically eating themselves. So I think he's probably weak as a kitten and just can't do anything as far as challenges that need muscle. And this one didn't need muscle, really. You just needed to be able to hold steady on those handles. So that's probably why he won that one. But if it was one requiring any strength, he's shown us he can't do it. So anyway, it was a good challenge. And when they got to tribal, holy cow. I knew it was going to be a long tribal, but I never expected it to go the way it did. But it was awesome. I was glad that the people of color were able to get their thoughts out about what it's like to be black in America. And I've seen that up close and personal because my son is black. So it is a struggle. And there's things that black people have to confront on a daily basis that we as white people don't have to. And even the other minorities, yes, they have some of those struggles, but I don't think it's as bad as what the black people have to go through. So that was a very interesting tribal, and I hope that people watching at home really understood and could be empathetic with what black people in this country go through. Once again, I had picked Deshaun to go home because I really thought it was going to be either him or Ricard going home. I never saw Liana going home. That move didn't make sense to me. Why would you vote somebody out who has really no strength in the game? I mean, she doesn't have any strong allies anymore. So if the other ones hold together, I can see Deshaun and Danny being the next ones voted out. But if Deshaun and Danny can get Xander or Erica and Heather to vote with them, then that could be Ricard going home next week. It was a great episode, and I'm looking forward to next week. I hope you all have a good week. I'm signing off. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Michelle. Next up, got an email from Erin in Canada. Hi, Joanne and Stacy. It's getting tougher to write in with the arrival of our baby soon approaching and Christmas. We are so excited, but I was able to squeeze in a quick email. Excellent.
All right.
Liana going home was not a surprise, but I'm amazed that no one is going after Xander with his advantages and idols. I would almost argue that he would be more dangerous than Ricard because of the advantages, and I think he's playing a better social game overall to the point that they weren't interested in flushing his idol yet. Danny seems to like Xander and shares ideas with him, so Xander has an ear on both sides, making him the biggest threat in my mind. Also, I have to point out that I was right about the Xander-Liana romance. Well, she says that she's in a relationship, so she kind of found that all humorous in her exit interviews. But it did seem that way. I know what you're talking about when you watch those videos, that Xander crush video. I am happy for Joanne that Deshaun is still in the game. For a second, it felt like the channel was switched to a game show based on the way pros presented the Do or Die challenge. It reminded me of the Let's Make a Deal with door number 1, 2, or 3. You did the same thing I did. You were mixing game shows up, but it still works. Now that Liana is gone, poor Heather is the only GOAT left in the game. All other players are playing pretty hard, and I wouldn't mind seeing either of them win. Well, that's all from me. Until next week. Thanks, Erin. You know, it almost seems like Deshaun's become a GOAT. I know he got some reconciliation this week. Well, he got it wasn't reconciliation because he hadn't talked to Shan yet. It was he was able to explain himself and to lay it out where the threat came first from Shan from that perspective.
Yeah,
but
I think it really bothered him how he would be perceived as turning on his alliance and needing to. Hey, she did first.
She struck first.
I'm just playing the game. I want to play the game.
Yeah, that it seems like he's lost that agency to be a winner to me. That's of course just my interpretation, but he may not be valued for his moves at this point, and that can make him goat-like, not to the degree of Heather or Liana for that matter, but Liana's
or that's
exit
what
took
they
care of
want
it.
us to think.
Yeah, that's true too. All right, thanks again, Erin. Next up, we got a call from Kyle.
Hello, Joanne and Stacey and all the Survivor fans at home. This is Kyle from Calgary, Canada, calling with this week's feedback. And I'm sorry I have been MIA in the last few weeks for providing my feedback. Things have been really busy. We actually took a trip to Hawaii to take a look at some schools for my daughter, and things have been really busy for work. But I've also felt that my voice wouldn't really add much to some of the commentary and some of the opinions that have been provided by some of the fans, and of course by you, Joanne and Stacey, in your episode recap. And I have to say, you've just done a great job in walking that line between providing an open dialogue to people, providing facts, and providing opinion. So I just want to be very clear that I'm still listening. I'm still listening to feedback. I'm still here, but it's just kind of been an interesting few months. Anyway, on to the episode. I thought it was important for me to actually provide some feedback in terms of what I felt was a really powerful episode. I did want to highlight that I do feel very bad for Deshaun in terms of how he was treated. I think he was unfairly maligned for a game choice in a grander scale because of what his culture dictated. Let's not forget that Shan was instrumental in voting out JD, and she felt no remorse. She was not held to a higher standard. She didn't have the weight of a culture put on her shoulders and then been called a snake for it. So this isn't anything against Shan. This is just how this particular game has evolved. And I think, again, Deshaun was sort of unfairly treated behind it. I think they're probably all good anyway. I hope so. I hope he's okay, watching it back in real life as it is right now outside of Survivor. From a personal experience point of view, changing gears a little bit, my wife is actually a flight attendant for a fairly major Canadian airline, and she is extremely good, and they're trained to do this, and they get experience over time for communicating, for understanding potential issues before they happen, for looking for risks, for helping out people with everything. And I think that it helps, or it would be so helpful in the game of Survivor, because so many things are changing and you're not always privy to them. So I think that's probably one of Ricard's greatest strengths, and it's likely because of his background working as a flight attendant. So anyway, that's all for me. Thanks again for all you guys do, and I'll be listening. All right, thanks. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah,
Really appreciate that insight.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
Next up, we got a call from Andrew.
Hey, Joanne and Stacey. This is Andrew. I haven't really been participating this season with the feedback. Been really busy with school. But I do have a lot to say about this episode, and I'll try to catch up on the season. I think it's one of the best seasons, especially in recent history, that we've seen. This episode in particular, I was really frightened what was going on when I saw the immunity challenge starting as quick as it did. Honestly, when I saw Deshaun drop out, I was kind of happy. But I feel like we actually have two GOATs this season, and them being Heather and Deshaun.
Yeah.
I feel like if anybody makes it to the end with those two, the third person is automatically winning. Moving on, I believe that this game really does show what does happen in our society, especially in the United States and in the Western world. And I think that it was just such a good reflective moment at Tribal Council, Leanna and Danny and Deshaun sharing their experiences and their perspective as Black people in the United States. I think that it was a really honest and raw moment, and I think that people that say that they would rather just listen to the gameplay. I mean, this is a complete social experiment. This has to do with putting real people in a real situation for $1 million, and it really can show the good and the bad in everybody that plays the game. And I think that is a really cop-out excuse to not want to listen to current events and to not want to change perspectives, if that makes sense. But back onto the gameplay, Liana leaving, she was one of my early picks to make it far, and I guess in the grand scheme of things, she did make it far. At this point, I'm really rooting either for Erica or for Ricard. I feel like either of those two win, it would be a pretty good season, with maybe Danny being my third pick. I'm obviously not playing your winner pick game this season. Sorry, I got really out of touch with participating in this due to school. But I hope that you guys are well, and I hope that all of the other listeners are doing well, and I will catch you guys next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
I appreciate the people that, you know, see the empathy and want to learn from their experiences and their sharing. But, you know, there's also the reality is that there's people that you're not going to change their opinion no matter what happens, or they're going to view something a certain way, and that's going to be their opinion. So.
Yeah, actually, they tend to dig in even deeper in those kind of situations.
And that also is life.
Yep, very much so. Thanks again, Andrew. Next up, we got a call from Boother.
Hi, Joanne and Stacy. This is Boother calling in after vacation. Well, this was another great episode of Survivor. Very emotional. From the get-go to the tribal council. Liana seemed to be at the center of all this emotion, along with Danny and Deshawn, but mainly Liana. I think it was her speech at tribal council that prompted Erica to change her vote from Ricard to Liana. She knew she had to break up that threesome of Deshawn, Danny, and Liana, and Liana was the logical choice. Now, back at the beginning of the episode, we learned that Xander is in a new alliance with Ricard, Heather, and Erica. That must have developed during the reward challenge that Ricard won, where he chose Shan, Heather, and Xander. We did not get to see what happened at that nice reward, but obviously a bond had formed. Now Xander thinks he's got a new alliance and a new buddy with Ricard, but he better watch out. He's been the target of his Yossi troop from the beginning, and now he's playing with fire and Ricard. Good luck, Xander. Watch out. All right, another great episode. Looking forward to hearing from everybody. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Boother. What do you think about that? Did Ricard win Xander over by buying him pizza for dinner?
Maybe.
I hadn't considered that having an impact because they only focused on Ricard and Shan when they did that, but maybe it did because he hadn't eaten. He had volunteered not to.
Well, absolutely, that makes a difference. And for Xander, he has been pushed aside so much and felt so alone.
Or volunteered.
Alone.
Yeah.
He felt so alone for so long.
Yeah.
That having anyone come to him, include him, court him.
I've got pizza.
Of course he's going to go, oh, thank goodness, someone wants to work with me.
Uh-huh.
So I get that.
Certainly smart on Ricard's part in that regard.
Well, truthfully, if I were to have to choose one of the six that is playing
right now,
the best right now is without a doubt Ricard.
With what we've been given, that would seem to be the case. Yes.
And I think Erica has an equal opportunity for strategy, and she seems to follow it maybe as well as Ricard. We just haven't seen enough of, but maybe we're about to see a lot more of what she can do.
Could be. Thanks again, Boother. Next up, we got an email from Kaylee.
Hello. First, I am a new listener, and I absolutely love your podcast.
Well, welcome.
You guys are amazing, and I will continue to listen. Second, Danny. Everybody else that I listen to comments that he was an NFL player for the Cowboys. Some of them have even gone so far as to find which position he played, and he was a part of the special team for the Cowboys. And then they discounted him because he wasn't first string O-line. This, to me, is crazy. There's a reason why they are called the special team. They have to be at 100%, 100% of the time. Otherwise, the line doesn't work. The special team is there to ensure points for the team because the players are extremely accurate and efficient at their positions, and they are trained and expected to always score. Danny is being brushed off as a worthy opponent because he's not Tom Brady. To me, Danny is a special unit, and he just might win this game. He might not seem fit to win because he hasn't been on the field that often, but that's not what he played as a professional. I will jump for joy if he gets the field goal in a tie and with 20 seconds to go. All right, Kaylee.
All right, Kaylee. I think Danny he'd be thrilled to have a champion as supportive as you.
I love
Good job.
Danny. I think he's cool.
Yep, he's definitely been winning us over, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yep.
I felt that way from the beginning.
I
just
didn't think he had
he'd get this far.
any chance because of his background, but he seems to have kept that professional side under wraps in the context of the game, leaving it with that he played college football, and that seems to have worked. So it's all seems to be working for him. Next up, we got a call from Robert.
Hi, Joanne, Stacy, and Survivor fans. This is Robert from Ontario, Canada, calling in with my very late listener feedback. So I'm sorry, Stacy. I wasn't a huge fan of this episode. I found Jeff's new dangerous twist to be kind of disappointing. It just seems like this season in particular, they're playing with some of the traditions of Survivor that I think shouldn't be messed with. Like, you know, if you win immunity, maybe you'll still end up going to tribal council, or now you can potentially go home without being voted out. And I guess it's important for them to try new things and see what works and what doesn't, but I hope this new twist dies. This week in JSFL, I found myself in a bit of a pickle. I guess I've been relying on Deshaun and Danny too much, and I had Ricard going home, so I could only pick 3 save points this week. But now that my second USB Shan's gone, I guess JSFL is a bit of write-off, but it's something I'll be cognizant of when it comes to next season. At Tribal Council, the vote went pretty much how I expected. It's hard for me to relate to some of the issues that were brought up by Deshaun and others since I'm not a person of color, but I appreciate what they're saying. And it makes me feel bad that they can't simply play the game and instead they feel some of this pressure from external circumstances. I think back to some of the most dominant players of the game that happen to be people of color like Jeremy Collins and Natalie Anderson, and it makes me wonder if they also, while playing the game, had to deal with sort of similar feelings and stuff like that. So I'm glad that CBS has made a conscious choice to increase the diversity and make the cast ethnically diverse. So I think that's a good change that they've made to the game. I guess that's it for me this week. Now that we're getting near the end of the season, I think that we're looking at probably Deshaun, Ricard, or Xander as the winner of the game. But I look forward to hearing what everyone else has to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Robert.
And Robert, you are not out of JSFL. Those are little points. The big points are in the finale. And for those of you, I've seen questions asked. For those of you that don't understand the rules of the points in JSFL, go to the official rules on the website and read on it. It'll explain everything there.
It's not too long.
No. And there's like 50 points plus just in the final 4, plus any USB you might have, or so there's a lot of points to be had.
Opportunity for sure.
Yes.
All right. Thanks again, Robert. Next up, we got a call from Ann and John.
Hi, I'm John.
I'm Ann.
I didn't watch much of the Survivor episode, so I don't have much to say. Bye!
You know, it's possible that there are some people who are reluctant to get into the details of these issues that may actually have their life improved by having it snuck into Survivor. So it could be beneficial. So, yeah, I totally understand all the difficulties everybody's going through. I mean, can't on a personal level, but I intellectually understand what they're talking about and the struggles that they're going through. I like Danny's approach. He seemed to appreciate the cultural aspect, but also realize that it's an individual game, and he didn't seem like he would be holding anybody accountable for making a personal decision versus going with the cultural alliance. I do wish there was more of Danny, like Joanne was saying last time. He just seems like the nicest, sweetest guy. And Xander, I don't think there's really a worry to get him out because I don't think he's going to win. He hasn't done much. Like, all of the so-called moves he's done are just somebody else navigating and coming up with some moves and then instructing him on what to do is my impression. And other than just being kind of like a bro with Danny, it doesn't seem like Xander's doing anything that incredible. I also think at this point, it's not impressive that he's holding on to the immunity idol. It's actually a detriment. And so, I mean, you can't give him credit for it at this point because it's really bordering on wasteful. I honestly think that's a sign that he's not a good player. Malcolm would have played it 4 more times by now because especially he was always on the outs. So why wouldn't you play it unless you knew your alliance was in power? So odd. The game of chance, hated it, everything about that. I thought it was super morbid. I didn't like the way they called it do or die. But luckily it didn't have any real effect on the game. So, phew, that was lucky. All right, that's all I got, guys. This is an intense one. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, John.
I had said to you, I wonder what would have happened if everyone had opted out and just said, yeah, we're not going to play,
If
Jeff.
they all went with the gray
We're
rock.
ready to do the challenge. Let's
Yeah.
just go to tribal.
Yeah.
We'll just duke
Like
it
normal,
out. Just
yeah.
like normal. And nobody had immunity.
I forget where I read it. It was somewhere online. It was probably the Survivor subreddit. Someone was saying that the reason they didn't like the do or die challenge was that, again, if he had gone out, if he had picked the skull, then it would have nullified the immunity challenge yet again. And that seems like those, just like the hourglass one nullified the immunity challenge, the win that they had in the teams there at the first part of the merge. That seems like a great example of the criteria you would want to use when you're trying to decide, should I do this or not? Does it violate one of these sort of core first principles of the game that people get voted out? That you win immunity and then you therefore have immunity, or that it has some value. And either way, that I liked it in the moment just because because it was over and because it had that Monty Hall problem in it. Those were that it was there and then it was over. It was dispensed with. Mm-hmm. So I liked it for its immediacy and that there's an element of risk involved if you choose to compete and can't last more than 3 seconds. Although I think Deshaun, to his credit, was a little beyond 3 seconds.
I don't know. I guess I was just would have. The reason I was thinking about it was I thought I would have liked to have seen Jeff's reaction.
If they undermined him.
No, we're not going to do it.
No thanks. Yeah, everybody goes
We don't like it.
Yeah.
Forget it, Jeff.
It's another way to be able to vote on what you think of the proposed advantage. Yeah.
Anyway, it gave me a chuckle just to think about it.
All right, moving on. We got a call from David.
Okay, Joanne and Stacy, don't expect a sweet hello from me the way Erica gave Jeff. Because of you two, I'm having anxiety attacks, high blood pressure, rapid heartbeats, and uncontrollable screams at unexpected moments. Yes, this is my first season playing JSFL and having a USB. I keep saying this every week, but my old USB was Ricard, and I didn't like the way he was playing, and I didn't think he had a good social game, at least not as good as his ally Shan did, and he didn't have an idol or an advantage. So when I could, I switched to Xander. Now, okay, Xander's doing well, but suddenly Ricard's game has gone up. He's making strategic moves, and he's being kept, even though he's perceived to be a big threat. And yet he could be voted out. And yet, as Erica mentioned in her confessions, they're keeping him. And this week I picked Deshaun to go. He was my vote out point, but no, Danny won. So I thought, okay, his time is numbered. And then he got the do or die, and I'm going, yes, he's not going to make the right choice. Well, now here he's making the right choice, and who are they going to vote up? I do have to point out some really positive things that I saw at this last episode. One thing is Erica and Xander strategizing together. I thought, well, this seems to be something that's coming along and may take both of them farther in the game than I thought they would go. Also, the talk about diversity and being a person of color in the tribal council. I thought Liana, who was not my favorite player, but was so eloquent when she talked about the fact that she's black wherever she goes, that she's perceived as a black woman first before anything else. I thought it was handled really well. I thought Jeff handled everything well, and I thought it was thought-provoking. And the white players expressed the fact that they had thought about it, or that they took a lot for granted that the black contestants could not. So I was really, really impressed with that tribal council. So where do we go from here? I have no clue. The only thing I am absolutely certain of is that Heather is not winning Soul Survivor. And now I'm going to get a glass of wine to wash down my Xanax.
Right. David, you just jinxed everybody. Heather's going to win. I really think Erica is doing exactly what Ricard's doing, and they're not closing doors. They're keeping the door open to every possibility that they could. They're not committing to an alliance. Now, I think Xander thinks they're all committed to the alliance, but I don't necessarily think they are. I think she will go wherever she thinks her best shot is. And she leaves the door open with Danny and Deshawn, or with Ricard and Xander. And so I think both she and Ricard are doing that.
We just get glimpses into her game, though.
That's why I don't think she'll win unless they're going to pull
I feel reasonably confident
on us
saying there's not a winner's edit going on. They're just more capturing the events.
Well, I know when Parvati won, you've been mad about that for how many years now? But
yeah,
because they made us believe, we just totally knew it was going to be Amanda.
Yeah.
And so we were so shocked. And we were in New York when it happened.
We were there,
We were there at the CBS studio.
All right.
And so, on our way over to do the
and I think that was just that's probably more an example of a bad edit, as, more details have come out over the years in that great expose that Dalton Ross did on the Black Widow Brigade and how all that came together, and how Parvati even basically threw an advantage away, or an idol away at one point because she didn't. Anyway. There's a lot more going on.
In the finale.
Yeah. Okay, enough about the edit.
Okay.
Let's get back to it.
Enough about us.
Next up, we got an email from Brian Heidik Save Us. Greetings and salutations, Survivor fans. I first want to thank Joanne and Stacy for this opportunity to express my opinion each week. Part of being a good public speaker, which I am not, is to know your audience. While listening to your recap of this episode, it is clear our opinions are not in lockstep. If they were, that would make for a boring feedback show. I actually thought this episode was great in many ways. The first 25 minutes gave us some important character development into Danny and how he processed grief, as well as observing how a monolithic alliance quickly crumbled under adversity. One clear takeaway from what many are calling the Campout Alliance is that this game is a marathon, not a sprint. Both Shan and Deshawn look poised to be amazing winners, but their weaknesses became more exaggerated post-merge. Conversely, players like Ricard and Xander have seen their stock reach all-time highs. Ricard has certainly benefited greatly from a more positive edit in the second half, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I could stop now and avoid the elephant in the room, which is the last 15 minutes of the show, but I would like to contribute to the diversity of thought on your wonderful podcast. Jeff says, if this is the adventure of a lifetime, then you have to have that low to have the high. This is a perfect description of Survivor 41, in which one great episode is often immediately preceded by a frustrating one. So you're saying this is the frustrating one for you, I guess. At Tribal Council, Deshawn attempted to shift the blame off himself and onto Ricard for voting Shan out, but he unwittingly gave Ricard credit for the strategy in front of the jury. I think he actually shifted the blame onto Shan. It wasn't so much Ricard. Okay, Deshaun also expressed concern that breaking up the Black Alliance was somehow hurting the culture. I'm curious if you or the listeners agree with this, or what metrics would even be used to make this determination. I'm wondering if Deshaun even knows a Black Alliance has already gone the distance and won. Remember Earl, Dreams, and Cassandra? That's a good reference for sure for Survivor Fiji. After Deshaun spoke, we heard from Liana. I'd first like to compliment CBS for the background music they played during her speech. You could read the phone book as that music played and sound compelling. I respect that Liana is speaking their truth. Liana says everywhere she goes, they see a black woman, and I thought how complicated and sad it must be to feel that way, to believe you are reduced to your race and gender at all times. At one point, she said coming here to play this game is about uplifting other black people and giving black people something to cheer for besides everything else that's out there killing us. I respect her motivation, and I believe this was said in response to a few high-profile cases that news organizations were determined to focus on. However, I was thankful to be able to discuss underreported statistics with my family that the U.S. Department of Justice provides. These statistics, especially relating to black-on-black homicides, help clean up many misrepresentations brought up by Liana. What are you talking about? In any case, this episode left me thinking the following. We must get past our differences and realize just how much opportunity and privilege is out there for those people that choose to make smart decisions in their life. I'm hopeful that one day a medical student, a magnanimous pastor, a student attending a prestigious university, and a multimillionaire athlete can realize that privilege is not based on melatonin. Okay, so they didn't talk about privilege at all. That was Xander who brought that up. Yeah, I'm not sure where you're going with this part here.
Anyway, okay.
All right, moving on. Next up, we got a call from Rebecca.
Hi, Joanna and Stacy. This is Rebecca calling from Northern California, and I am actually out in the wilds of West Marin right now on a long bike ride, and I just realized I forgot to send in my feedback, so I pulled over on the side of the road to do it right now. Oh, boy. What an amazing episode. I thought it was just so emotional again, from Danny, my USB Danny, what a sweetheart, talking about his dad and how it gave him the strength to keep going, and he decided to make a stand, to not be angry, and then look at him, he won immunity. I was so proud of him. I really felt like his father was smiling down on him that day. And I want to talk a bit about tribal council, because there's some other boards who complain that there's too much talk about racism this season, and I love our group because we accept everybody as people who are bringing their own experience into this game and talking about their lives and how it affects them. And I mostly have to give kudos to you, Joanna and Stacy, because when you give your feedback, you're both so eloquent, and you really talk about the real life experience of all the people. You're so unjudgmental, and I think that's why I not only love your podcast so much, but I love everybody in this group, because everyone is so kind and so welcoming. And Joanne, you really hit it on the head. I don't think I could add anything to what you said about Liana, that she really brought it home on what it is like to be a black woman in America and how she walks through with her experience. And yeah, she goes to Georgetown. She's very well educated. She's really a powerful woman. And to hear her talk about her struggle, it was amazing to me. Still don't think she's great as Survivor, but I think she's a great, powerful woman. And Deshaun breaking down in tears, we need to see the experiences these people are having, because it's not fair and it's not right, and racism is running rampant in our country. And we need role models to look at and root for and just cheer on. So that's my 2 cents about Tribal Council. I really appreciated everything you guys had to say in your feedback. It really touched me, and I thank you. I was really happy. I got a vote out point. My USB had immunity. I can't wait to see what happens next. This season, I love. And I love that they're bringing the real-life events of 2020 into the real-life experience of these contestants, because otherwise it would ring falsely. And Survivor is supposed to, how do you pronounce it, be a microcosm of society, and boy, are they bringing it home this year. I very much appreciate everybody's feedback, your podcast. all of it. Can't wait to see what happens next. I only have 2 safe points left for Danny. All right, I'm getting back on my bike. I have about 50 miles to go today. Hey, I should be on Survivor. I have endurance. Rats. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, if you can bike over 50 miles in Marin County, oh, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
The hills there are so intense.
Good job for getting your feedback in. Number 1, I only have 2 points left on Danny also, but that's all we need.
Yes.
As it turns out, there's 2 more weeks, and so that's all we need. And till we get to the final 4. The other thing was I felt the same way about Liana as I did with Tiffany. They were so much more fun and free, and you got to see more of the real personality, the light side of their personalities come out at Ponderosa. Because, they were heavier in the game. That's what the edit showed us. And so that's how we thought. And that's why I didn't care for Liana as a player in the game, or at least what we saw of her. But she was much more personable at Ponderosa in the videos there. So, and same as Tiffany. I thought, oh, yeah, I could hang with them. With seeing that side of it.
Yeah, several of them said in their exit interviews that when Dalton Ross is always good to ask that question that we liked, is there anything that they didn't show about you, wish they had shown? And several of them mentioned how much fun they had and how they were just laughing endlessly and cracking each other up all the time, and they would wish that some more of that had been shown. So it was there. They chose a different path for Liana's edit.
Well, and they said that, Liana had said that they did not show how very close she was with Evie and with Tiffany, and how really close they had become out there. So that was not shown as well.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. Next up, we got a call from Kim.
Hey, Survivor fans, this is Kim from North Carolina. Sorry I've been absent for the last couple weeks. I've just let the busyness of life get in the way, and I probably procrastinate just a little bit, and that catches up with me. Anyway, this week's feedback is basically 3 things. Number 1, Danny is a lovely person. Oh my gosh, I really wouldn't mind if he wins, even though he's not my USB. The second thing is, it's starting to look like Eliza from whatever season she was in during Tribal Council, with Evie making all the faces and the big ooh and ahs and saying things. It just reminds me so much of Eliza, who is someone I actually remember from years past. Third thing is, how about that Monty Hall problem? So Deshaun picked his thing, and it's a classic problem. Even Xander said something about it, and I was going, switch, because the statistics say you should switch, but it's such an important lesson about how statistics are about what happens in the long run or in the big group, but what happens to everybody individually doesn't necessarily represent the statistics. So good on Deshaun for sticking with his gut, and it worked out for him. Before the Tribal Council, I made a list of who won't win. My list of who won't win was Heather, Liana, and Deshaun, and my can win was the other 4 people, Danny, Erica, Ricard, and Xander. So when they voted Liana out, I thought that was a dumb move, because I feel like Liana can't win. So I guess maybe what we're going to be left with is really the top players battling it out at the end of the game, which is great. And it's got me really excited about what's happening in the season. I hope everybody has a great week. I'm going to try really hard to make my feedback. I didn't even make my picks this week, y'all. Oh, well. Take care. Love you. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Kim.
Good thing they roll forward and you got some points.
Next up, we got a call from Cameron.
Hey, Joanna, Stacy, and Survivor fans. This is Cameron from North Carolina. I'm sorry I keep missing, but you know what? The semester's about over for me. The season's about over, too. It's all rushed by really quickly. This has been an interesting season for me, and I'm sure for everyone else as well. As you know, pandemic doesn't stop. It gets worse. We get more new variants, and I just hope everyone is being responsible still. It's not over, and I hope it'll end soon, maybe 5 years from now. Maybe that'll be soon. Anyway, let's get to the show. So Ricard was smart to do what he did, in my opinion, with taking out Shan. I thought he was really skilled and manipulative in having to do that. I think Shan is the type of player where she did say, Ricard, congrats, you got my $1 million vote. Frankly, if Ricard keeps going, and he said what he said at this past tribal, which definitely rubbed Shan the wrong way, she might not stick to that. In fact, she might blow up his game if he does make the final season. She's feeling extra jealous then, because that's just kind of always how I perceived Shan. I'm really loving the cinematography this season, and I know I said it early on, but I'll say it again now that the season's almost over. Just the transitions back in from commercial, where you get the shots of the birds and the bugs and the wildlife and the fish in the water, and just the scenery is just so amazing. And I don't know why it's just hitting me now, because they've been on Fiji for so long now, and were there before in season 14. Maybe it's just because I had a whole year without Survivor that it really set in, and just I really appreciated that much more now that I'm getting it again. Anyway, so I really enjoyed these pre-challenge twists. I really do. I know they're probably a bit divisive. When I was a kid, I loved that kind of stuff, and then when I was a teenager, I really hated that kind of stuff. But now that I've gotten here now, it makes for good TV, and I won't deny that. With that being said, I thought it was brutal what they did to Deshawn. Having that much of a hold on whether you even play in the immunity challenge or not, that's a little overkill. And I will say, ethically speaking, they have a right to eject a player from the game on a challenge basis, because every season now, the Final Four, they have the fire making, which that's not a vote. That's making fire. That's a challenge. So I won't say on that front that they can't compete out or in of the game. But that 1 in 3 shot at just opening the right chance, geez Louise, I'm glad that he's still there. That was just so unfun to watch, but I'm glad he's still there. Growing up how I grew up, I always saw the unequal divide among just different races and different classes. I grew up in Raleigh, NC, which is just a super diverse city, and I knew we'd get one of these moments this episode, the moment that they had talking about the two Americas we live in, what it means to be black versus white, or just any other person of color, like the extra weight that carries. I thought it was a great conversation, and Heather's response just proved to me that it's great that we still have these conversations, because she was understanding and she was compassionate, but she still was like, oh, well, I was never aware. And that's why I think it's a very important conversation to keep having. It was very unfortunate to see that play out, and then to see what happened after it follow with Deshawn's challenge and then the vote out. But hey, it is what it is. Joanna, Stacy, Survivor fans, I will see you all next time.
Thanks, Cameron. Good job. Next up, got an email from Jack in California.
I hope everyone had a great holiday, and what an episode this was. It had a lot going on for it, from the new twist to the tribal council conversation. The story that Danny shared about his dad passing was a nice story arc for his character, and it was really nice to see him win the immunity challenge on the day of his dad's passing. I was a bit confused with the new do or die twist at the beginning when it first got introduced. When it played out, I was able to follow the twist more easily. It was a different type of twist where one person played a game of chance and they failed. They were out of the game.
And if they failed,
they were out of the game. Also, what a conversation about representation. That conversation gave out a lot of information to think about, and I hadn't thought of some of it. I know this conversation will probably have a lot of discussion this week, but with how the world is in this day and age, that topic is an important one to have, and I think they handled it well. All right, thanks, Jack. Up next, we've got a call from Noelle.
Hi everyone, it's Noelle calling from Albuquerque. That episode was fine. A lot of power moves from my USB Heather. She sat out of immunity, bold winning move. Then she, at Tribal, said that she sat out because the only people she could beat were already on the jury. Definitely winning some jury favor there. And then she said that she had no idea that the black players in the game would be having a different experience than her. Definitely trying to downplay how keyed in she is to what's going on. Very much downplaying her threat. So I definitely feel good about this USB. As far as everybody else goes, Xander, I think it's too late now to flush his idol, right? I mean, how are they going to split votes? It looks from Paul's roster, there's only 6 left. So I think that's too few to split votes to get Xander's idol out. So I guess he's going to hold on to it to 5. Is that the last time he can play it? That was a huge missed opportunity. I didn't want to pick him for my USB the second time that I got to pick one, because I thought that he might make a mistake making it to the end, and that if he did make it to the end, that most of the jury would not want to give $1 million to a 20-year-old, because I've heard in past seasons where juries said that they didn't want to give it to somebody because they thought they were too young and that they would blow the money or whatever. So, but now maybe I'm going to regret it. Maybe Xander can win. Who else can win? Probably anybody. It's so hard to tell what's going to happen. It's funny because when I rewatch the seasons, it's like watching a whole new season all over again, because knowing who wins makes it so different the way that I watch it. So I have no idea. Oh, I didn't like the twist. I wanted to say that. It usually takes me a while to decide if I like something new in the game, but not this time. I really didn't like the do or die thing. I thought that was stupid. And I think that if you go out, you should go out with votes. I think, again, they're trying to keep it so that it's really hard for somebody to maintain a foothold in the game, so that maybe the result is that it's more fair. But I'm not sure it worked again. On the MTV show The Challenge, which aired long before Survivor ever started, they have a women's week and a men's week. So it's a women's elimination and then followed by a men's elimination. Sometimes they mix it up to keep people on their toes, but basically if you're going to get eliminated, it's one gender or the other. I wonder if that might be something that Survivor could do to try to ever have another female winner, because at this point, why would you let a woman get to the end if it's been so long since there's been a woman winner? I think maybe it's fair to assume the jury would vote for a semi-confident woman. I don't know. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm having fun with this season. I really think it's a good season, and I hope everybody had a lovely Thanksgiving, and can't wait to hear all of your feedback. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Noelle. Next up, we got a call from Jade-n-Christine.
Hi, Joanne and Stacy. This is Jade.
And Christine.
From Hawaii.
Aloha. Oh my gosh. Episode 11. Here we are, the last few people. And boy, the fallout from that Shan blindside was intense.
Yep.
Yeah. But I think all in all, I think Ricard did a good job of kind of managing it. And I also believe that Xander might be Ricard's new Shan.
Yeah, new meat shields.
Yeah, there you go.
New manipulation.
Yes.
New person to manipulate.
New puppet.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that do or die challenge. I don't know. I didn't like it because it was based in chance. If it had been based in skill, it might have been more interesting. But it just seemed so random.
Yeah, it seemed very random, and then the way that Liana was then voted out. But they had to have a second choice, right?
They had to have plans.
Yeah. But I am mad that Deshaun didn't go home because I picked him to go home. I was so irritated.
Joanne gets to keep her USB.
Yeah,
but you
I
didn't get a vote out point.
Yeah.
I picked Liana, so I'm okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was all right. I didn't hate it with a passion, but I didn't love it either. I didn't think it was the most interesting twist.
I liked Danny's thing about his dad and what he was sharing about that. I thought that was really added to his story, and I hope that means that they're going to keep him around a little longer.
Yeah.
But I love that he actually finally won something, and he's
That was shocking.
Yeah.
And then he said to Deshaun, I thought we were going to step it up, so maybe he was sandbagging a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I actually really did like what they had to say at the tribal council. I didn't care for the music and the overproduction, because I felt like that was a little performative. But yeah, especially what Liana was saying about being a Black woman. I feel like when I lived in Pittsburgh and I was studying for my PhD, I was in a lot of very white spaces, and I felt my Asianness a little bit more, I think, in those spaces versus living in Hawaii. And especially when I would go out to interview for jobs, a lot of times I was looked at just as an Asian woman first rather than a scholar first. So I can kind of understand what Liana's saying, though I think it's to a much greater extent in the Black community.
Yeah, of course. And although, I mean, it was good that they had that platform to bring this topic to light, and it's been good, especially with the history of Survivor and the way that their diversity is, they're really trying, which is great. But I mean, come on, that music.
Yeah.
Swelling.
Yeah. It's like, just let them talk for themselves.
Yeah,
Don't add the extra music. It felt like it turned a serious moment into something kind of cheap, which I didn't like.
Kind of cheesy, and yeah.
But overall, we love it. We love the show.
And it's Survivor, so awesomeness.
It is, exactly. Can't wait to hear what everyone else has to say. Can't wait for next week. It's going to be great.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Jade. Thanks, Christine.
You know, I don't think I noticed when they were into heavy conversation. I was so focused on their voices because that music was playing from the time they walked in, and that always annoys me so much. They do it on other shows. It's not just Survivor, but don't play music when people are talking. I don't want to hear music when people are talking.
Right.
Any music, any kind of music,
Wanna hear the
stop
people.
it. It's so annoying to me. I've even thought about writing in and complaining, not Survivor specifically, but other shows. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I'm going to stop watching this show if they keep doing that. It annoys me so much. So I was not aware of the music. I've gotten pretty good at just trying to tune it completely out and focusing in on what they're saying because it annoys me so much. So I guess I wasn't that aware of
Yeah, Jade and
what the
Christine weren't
music
the only
was.
ones bugged by it. There's some other folks here that
Oh.
it annoyed too. And we hope you guys are doing okay. I don't know that we know what island they're on, but we were just looking at a story in the news that said the Big Island in Hawaii was expecting up to 12 inches of snow in blizzard-like conditions in some places. And
I went,
do not
snow,
think
Hawaii.
about that.
No, that's wrong.
In the article, they talked about how some of the mountains are like 12, 13,000 feet up. So, yeah, and we know that there was that one touristy thing. That's on Maui, right? Where you go up real early in the morning up into the mountain.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had never done it, but we're aware that there are
Kilahani something.
that there are higher elevations there, but to see that you're expecting blizzard-like conditions on at least one of the islands and snow just caught us completely off guard. So it made us think about you two, so we hope you're doing okay. Next up, we got a call from Jill.
Hi Joanne and Stacey, hi Survivor fans, Jill from the Outback here. I think it was another great episode this week. The second part of this season is coming along really well. It was no surprise that Liana left. She just didn't have her own game. She was just going to go along with whatever Sian said, and so once Sian was gone, she was lost. We're getting teased about an idol next week with maybe Deshawn or Danny. But I think if Ricard and Xander can keep Erica and Heather on side, I think they've got it made. And I reckon that they'll get rid of Deshawn and Danny, and Xander will have Heather and Erica, and I reckon he'll be able to get rid of Ricard. I reckon the final three is going to be Xander and the two women. And then Xander's got it in the bag. Heather's just been a goat from the start, and Erica's probably not that far above her. But a little question about Danny. How well known is he? Like, I've just seen them say that he's an ex-NFL player, but would the perception be that he's made a lot of money over his career and people wouldn't vote for him based on that? If he did make it to the end, of course. I don't really know any Americans personally, certainly no black Americans, so I took... I really appreciated Liana and the other black players talking about their experiences playing Survivor and being black. There was a whole lot of eye-rolling and comments on the Instagram thread about not being lectured to when they're watching Survivor. They just want to watch the game. I don't know why we can't watch the game and learn a little bit as well. I think Liana especially should be congratulated for talking so eloquently about a really emotional topic. I didn't mind the do or die twist. Maybe, if anything, I would have preferred it to be a game of skill at the end instead of just picking out a box. Maybe you had to light a fire in before a bucket filled up with water or something like that. That'll do me this week. Thanks, Joanne and Stacey, for everything. Happy days, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Jill. Yeah, I don't think they know that Danny's in the NFL, so I don't know that that's going to play into the jury at all. Usually you get an indication if someone's caught on to someone's background and they recognize one of the professional athletes, and we've got nothing on that so far.
I don't know. I'm feeling that too, that the people that have the best chance at this time would be Ricard, Erica, and Danny, with a slight possibility of Xander.
Jill called it Heather, Erica, and Xander. That was interesting.
Yeah. I don't know that Danny's... I don't know as much about if he played a good game or not, so I don't know that he got, certainly not a winner's edit, but he's coming up in people's opinion toward the end, and definitely getting a win, an immunity win.
Potentially get a benefit
helps
from the
his
recency
resume,
bias.
Yes. But I just think he's such a likable person. He could just win.
Win based on that.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Could just be the one
whether he
that's
played the better game or not.
the not despised one for whatever number of reasons. Yes, that
Though
that
I
actually
have to say, I think
is
Ricard
significant.
is extremely deserving of a win.
from what we've seen, and he's
played this game, I think, better than anyone.
Given a very positive edit. The first half, not so much, but to his credit, he survived.
Yeah, but he at least saw what mistakes he made and he gets along better with people.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again, Jill. Next up, we got an email from Josh, the Plush Moose from Massachusetts. Dear Joanne and Stacy, in more ways than one, this was a very special episode of Survivor. First, we were given a new, potentially deadly twist. Next, we saw Danny finally process his grief over his dad's death. Finally, we were reminded that Survivor is as much a social experiment as it is a game, that players bring their diverse experiences, cultures, and points of view into the game with them, that these beloved characters return to their real lives and challenges when the game ends. The marginalized players want us to know of the struggles many of us don't have, in hopes that this leads to real change. Now we know, and knowing is half the battle. My other observations. Xander says he rose from the bottom to the top. Will he be the cream of the crop? Liana's classic blunder. Emotional, reactive gameplay scares strategic tribe mates. Deshaun is a sin eater. Maybe he was cursed by Pastor Shan. Yeah. Jeff likes to channel old TV host when explaining the twist to the audience. It was Alan Funt. Deshaun's emotions confuse Ricard. He has trouble with CAPTCHA tests, too. Do you know what he's doing there?
Yeah.
He's saying Ricard's a bot. When Jeff said Red Rocks, I was hoping there'd be a concert. Yeah, I've been to Red Rock Casino. I don't think I saw where the concerts were. Is it me, or did the editors add a virtual fly during the challenge? Danny wanted to... I did see something fly by. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Danny wanted to win to make Dad proud. Mission accomplished. Deshaun is lucky he didn't die. You can't get last rites without a pastor. I've decided that I'd really hate playing poker with Xander. Note to Erica, it's not good if potential jurors describe you as squirmy and shady. Shan's stink face was the worst I've seen since Rikishi retired from the WWE. Okay, I don't know that wrestler, so I can't compare. I'll have to look that up. Heather's biggest strategic move so far was sitting out of this challenge. The Survivor dilemma, take a big swing or keep people you trust. The tribe would be merciful to vote out Deshaun. He'd get slammed at the final tribal. See, he thinks so too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Danny told the tribe that he respects everyone as a man, even the women. That was just easy, huh? Padumpa. I think Deshaun was confused. In the classic Monty Hall problem, standing pat improves your chances of getting a goat, which is normally the right play in Survivor. Next, an advantage is shown, and Danny has a spring in his step. Are the two related, or was he informed that his school retired his number? Anyway, that's it from me for now. Thanks, Joanne and Stacy, for all you do. Can't wait to hear what the other fans have to say. Stay safe, everybody. Thanks, Josh. Next up, we got a call from Jeremiah.
What an exciting and emotional Survivor episode that was. Hey everybody, it's Jeremiah here. Let me start with the exciting part. This crazy, very dangerous twist that they introduced in this game. I didn't hate it. Now, if I played the game, I would not like this whatsoever. But as a viewer, it definitely creates for some excitement. My biggest issue with it is doing it on this season. A season that has already been flooded with all these different advantages, disadvantages on all that stuff. And I understand this is exactly what they meant at the beginning of the season by this being more dangerous a season. More danger meaning they've included too many things to cause luck to be a big factor. Listen, we all know luck is a part of Survivor, but when you add so many of these things into the game, it creates too much luck. And that's the part I really don't like. Now, I definitely like this better than I did probably, let's say, the Hourglass twist. I definitely think this one works a little bit better. But, time will tell whether or not if any of these things stick around anyway. I'm just afraid we're just going to get to the point where no one's going to be able to trust anything in this game, and that's really what stinks. But what's really funny is that technically, when you look at the Monty Hall theory, I guess technically Deshaun was supposed to switch. Now, luckily for him, he did not do that. He stuck to his gut, so he was able to stay home, because I'm very glad about that, because I really like Deshaun, and I'm not just saying that because I had him pick safe and Alana to go home. As for the emotional aspects of the episode, first, as far as Danny's emotional moment about his father, I really enjoyed that quite a bit. And dare I say, Danny is becoming quickly one of my favorite, if not my favorite, athlete that's ever played Survivor. What do you guys think about that? Then we had, of course, the emotional conversation that took place in Tribal Council that you guys, of course, so beautifully covered in your recap episode. On a personal level, you obviously cannot get more privileged than someone like myself, being a white heterosexual male. And as you can imagine, growing up, I was only hanging around, other white boys. So this is not something that I thought about too much. But as I matured and got older, started my own family, raising girls, making friends with different ethnic backgrounds or different sexual orientations, and when I listened to those people, I realized how different their lives were, and for how many of them it was so much more difficult. I just learned so much from actually talking and listening to other people. And that's what I hope that everyone in the audience will take from this conversation. All we're asking people to do is stop judging, take more time, and listen to people who are different than you. Because you know what? They're the only ones that really understand the problem. The rest of us in this world just need to show compassion and love and try to ask how we can help. Hopefully others will watch this episode and take that same action. As for my prediction for next week, I really do think that poor Deshaun and Danny are in trouble, although they could go after Ricard. But for right now, I'm going to say poor Deshaun is the one that goes home next week. All right, that's it for me. You guys take care. Until next time, this is Jeremiah from SoCal.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
Well said, Jeremiah.
Next up, we got a call from Jen.
Hi, everyone. This is Jen in California. Well, this was a different episode in a different kind of season. My first thoughts on the episode was that I loved Danny talking about his experience with his dad passing away and spending a lifetime trying to process his death. I thought that was a very cool segment, and I have so much admiration for him. And my almost weekly negativity with Probst continues. Jeff, stop talking to us. I can't stand that he feels like he has to explain twists and what they mean to us like we're 4 years old. He needs to explain that it's dangerous, a potentially deadly game of chance. I just think that this twist was a stupid twist, and Jeff needs a haircut. Okay, just a little side note. I feel like I'm such a jerk when I'm talking about Probst these days every week. I'm really a nice person, and I love you, Jeff Probst, and I love Survivor. Just stop doing what you're doing. I love that Danny won immunity, and they were featuring him, and he wins immunity. I'm thinking that maybe this was his episode of showing that his game is taking off. And finally, Tribal Council. Jeff says at the beginning, today's twist was all about relationships. Really, Jeff? I completely disagree. I think that it's about more than relationships. This game of Survivor is so complex, and you're really just simplifying it too much by saying that that's all that it was about. It was about strategy. It was about, yes, relationships, but it was also about fear and insecurity, and you could just go on and on about really what sitting out this immunity challenge or playing it meant to people. A lot more than relationships. And now that I'm thinking about it, Jeff loves talking about relationships, so I guess I can see why he puts that spin on it. And lastly, I can't talk about the episode without talking about what happened at Tribal Council. What was discussed gave me a lot to think about, but what struck me most was how important it was for Deshaun and Liana, and Shan, even though she couldn't talk, that they uplift their community and show that they could stick together and show strength together. They were struggling with setting an example of being loyal in a game of betrayal. I think that they really felt that they need to not just say those things publicly to everybody watching, but say those things to each other.
especially Deshawn after voting Shan out. He was struggling and he needed her to know that he was playing the game and that at the time his interests in the game were not running with the same currents as being loyal to the culture. What they were feeling was much bigger than the game of Survivor. And like Liana said, it really kind of took everyone out of the game for those moments. But I think that it was important that they were able to speak and get those things off their chests in order to be emotionally okay. And that's more important than any game. So I'm really glad that they took the opportunity and took the time, gave them that time during Tribal Council to say those things. Well, that's it for me. I'm looking forward to hearing everyone else's thoughts. Until next week. Bye.
Thanks, Jen. My takeaway from Jen's talk. Props, your twist was stupid and your hair looks funny.
Okay.
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate all that. Next up, we got a call from Paul.
Hey, Paul in Louisiana here, and yes, it was an above-average episode to me, but I have to say that I don't like the new twist at all. Maybe it would sit better with me if it were a 50-50 shot at staying or leaving, but even then, nah. It was all about pure luck, no skill involved. Even less so than I'm thinking, because Deshawn couldn't even perform in the challenge, so there was a decided lack of skill there that led him to this new twist. I just don't care for it, and I guess that's just my 2 cents on the matter. You know, I think it's funny that Deshawn is worried about taking all the blame for Shan's demise, because I don't think he realizes that Ricard got a target painted on his back as well. I don't care what anyone says. When Shan said that Ricard had her vote for the million, it was to target him. God may be forgiving, but I don't think Chantel is. At least not yet. And for the past 2 days I've been trying, and failing, to come up with a clever nickname for Chantel, to match that sour face she was sporting every time we saw her. Sister needs to practice putting on a smile, huh? Well, maybe being reunited with Liana will help there. Or maybe not. At any rate, Shan really reminds me of Sandra. There's a distinct similarity there for me. And does anyone else feel that Heather was channeling Carol Baskin there at Tribal with her hair loose and flowing? All she needed were some flowers. And if you don't know who Carol Baskin is, well, I kind of envy you. Okay, so with all eyes on Ricard now, I'm hoping he wins immunity because I'm also hoping he wins this season. He's oddly, even eerily calm and cool, which is actually what I expected from him when I first saw his picture before the season started, which is kind of why I didn't like him. But I thought he'd be calm and cool in a spooky serial killer kind of way, which I sort of said he was, so yeah, nailed that right from the get-go. I just can't seem to connect the dots as to how I'm now rooting for the emotionally detached sort of scary guy that I am now. And if I were Xander, I have to say that I would have made the same choice to keep Ricard. I see a slight advantage to having him there in front of me and currently aligned with me. Listen to me, it's like I'm playing the game. Anyway, it's just a shame that Xander had to use his extra vote for nothing. I just don't see Xander winning if he makes it to the final 3 unless he's up against Heather and Erica. And how's that going to happen? The current winning order to me is Ricard, then Deshawn, then Danny, followed by Xander, Erica, and lastly Heather. And yes, I'll be very upset if Heather pulls a Natalie and walks away with a win. Okay, I guess that's it for me. Oh, but did I mention that I'm glad Liana is gone? Okay, that's really it. Bye.
All right, thanks, Paul. You had a different
now
order.
I got to go look up who Carol Baskins is.
Oh, I don't know if you want to go down that path, but yeah, sure. Go do that. Oh, now we've heard how many different variations on what the
Thanks,
prioritized
Paul.
winner list is? That was yet another one. So, what are you thinking? Who's top? Who's number 2? And who are they going to take out this week? Based on everything we just heard.
I think they will want to take out Ricard. I think he'll win the immunity, and Xander will probably play his idol finally.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't, then I think he could go home. If Erica and Heather can convince Xander he's safe, then he won't play it because he can use it.
There would be a beautiful symmetry to that, to have them all go out
Here's
in
a
pockets.
question. Can he use it
At Final 5?
down to 5?
I believe so. That's my thought.
Then that would guarantee him Final 4 if he
Right,
hung
exactly.
on to it. So
That's the temptation.
So they could blindside him if he doesn't play it,
Mm-hmm.
which would mean all 3 people went out with their idols in their pockets.
Yes, that would just be fantastic.
It's like, okay. But I could
There's
see
another
them
vote on your
go
twist.
after that play
Your
if they
advantages.
felt like they could convince him and that
Mhm.
he wasn't going to play it. So, but otherwise, wow. Then probably they would turn on Deshaun, don't you think?
Yeah, I got to think he's still a target.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
think he's a target.
Especially if Danny ends up finding something and can get himself there too. I mean, that would be another great feather in his cap. Great bullet point on his Survivor resume if he finds one and is able to play it to save himself and give himself another day.
Yeah, I really don't know how committed Heather is to any side. I really don't have a feel for that because we don't see that much from her to tell us what she really feels.
Mm-hmm.
And Erica, I could
think
see
there's a reason for that.
She could very well go either direction.
So we're really looking for a standout performance from Erica, Danny, and Xander in the next one. You're expecting Ricard to be immune, but someone could really make their case for being a worthy winner depending on how events pan out for Danny, Erica, and Xander. Is that is that a fair summary of what you said?
I don't think I said that, but okay.
No, you didn't say it that way. You were just tackling each one in turn.
Okay.
I don't know. That's my summary. And that's what I'm thinking too. Thanks to everyone who took the time to share your thoughts and predictions today. We enjoyed that so much. We appreciate hearing from you. Also, we'd like to give a big thanks to David for your donation and to Christy, Erica, and Hazel for your monthly subscription donations. We appreciate all of your support, and that helps us pay for the operational costs of the podcast. Thank you so much for that.
If you play in JSFL, don't forget to make your Week 12 selections for one person voted off and 4 people you think will still be in the game at the end of the episode.
And if you'd like to join us on the next listener feedback show a week from today, you can call and leave a voicemail at 206-350-1547 or toll free 844-643-8737. You can record an audio comment and attach it or just type it up in a quick text message and send it to us via email at joanneandstacyshow.com. Feedback's due noon Pacific time on Saturdays. And if you're not clear on what noon Pacific is, you can Google it. Say, what time is it in California? Time, California. And it will tell you. I just mentioned that because we've had some coming in late there that we were still working on getting things together and we included, but it makes it a lot easier when we don't have to scramble right at the end to get another one in and impact the order and things like that.
Yeah, no, one week we had one arrive on Sunday morning.
Yeah, that's
so it's
true.
Like,
couldn't do anything with that.
It's Sunday. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's already out there. It's Sunday morning or late Saturday afternoon. Is there anything else you want to say? Did you say who you thought was going?
I think Deshaun's going to be the target again for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to say Xander then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll be back on Wednesday with our recap.
Have a good one.